let's talk about dynamic shooting, guys. Got a question here. It seems like a lot of your teaching time and focus, possibly biased by the clips I see, is spent on things like improved splits and recoil control, much less on movement and transitions. Though I would imagine that's where the most time to be shaved off. How much of the training time should B to C class be spending on just moving efficiently? All right, well, that's a pretty good question. Now, if you watch the footage of the class stuff, especially the stuff that I put out, I would say it is weighted towards static shooting skills. If you're curious what a normal 2-day class looks like, it would be like half a day on just a single target fundamentals, half a day on multiple targets, target transitions, roughly half a day where your feet are moving all the time, and then maybe a half a day is like a mix of those different things depending on the range setup, how the class is feeling, and all those sorts of things. Now, what I tell people that, like, if you're training really seriously, I'd be like, hey, your training should mostly be dynamic. Meaning, so here's a good example. If you have a dry fire area where you do your dry fire, it'd be, hey, how many of you can even move in your dry fire area? And I would say most people can't. All right. Whereas if you look from a competitive shooting point of view, how many stages do you shoot where you're just standing still? It'd be like, well, most of the time you're drawing, you're moving around, running multiple targets, all that sort of stuff. And I think your training, if you're kind of geared towards that stuff, it should strongly reflect what it is you're going to be doing, which is typically dynamic shooting and moving. First, I think, again, your dry fire area should reflect that if possible. Like, you should be able to move around during your dry training. It's good to have access to a live fire range where, again, you can move and shoot dynamically without getting in any kind of trouble. That's a really good thing. Now, what you see from the footage from the classes, especially the stuff that I end up sharing, is it's stuff that's going to have a very broad application as far as shooting, for one thing. So a clip of doing like doubles or doing marksmanship fundamentals or like just returning the gun back onto the spot you want the bullets to go to. Those sorts of foundational skills apply to everybody who's going to train with a handgun. So that's stuff that I'm likely to put out. And then the other thing is what I've seen a lot in USPSA, like a lot, is guys can get to a pretty high level without very good grasp of fundamental mechanics. So especially if it's a guy who's like fast, talented, real motivated, they'll want to practice like the sort of high concept competitive shooting strategies for shooting in and out of position and all that kind of stuff. But they're like not very systematically good at like punching out A zones. But they're fast enough that the C's they throw that they don't really understand or care about, they're fast enough that at a club level they'll do very well, right? And have, not that their shooting is bad, but it's like, it's not here, it's here, and they don't have any concept of how to get it to here, but it's here already. That kind of thing. Yeah, you do see that in USPSA, and that's why I like to sort of do the classes where you take it from the top and kind of get on the same sheet of music as far as foundational skills, because that'll help that crew of people, down the road, for one thing. And then, of course, we get to the dynamic shooting anyway. So it's a good question. I'm glad you asked it. I think, again, if you're training for shooting practically, most of the time you should be moving your feet during most of the training you're doing. That, for most people, starts in dry fire, so that's where you want to look. Again, having access to a place where you can do that live, that's super good. That's super helpful. Hope you guys find it helpful.